All right, so when Scott asked me or asked the group, what should we be doing, what topic should we do for ICT, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, everybody needs to know how to be a Google search ninja. And that phrase kind of stuck, but I really believe in it because we're technology, right? And every day I'm looking at Google for something. There's so much documentation that's out there. There is so much policies that have already been written. So when we're talking about policies and we need to write another policy, well, guess what? There's a lot of policies that are already there. There's so much other things that institutions are doing. So if we're looking for new technology, we can see whether or not another institution is doing them, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. I think we all need to know how to be Google search ninjas because it's a part of our job every day. So the first thing I want to get into is, how does a Google search work? And some of you probably already know this, but just in case, we're just going to review a little bit. So if you think about Google in general, you're thinking about, how are they getting all the pages out there? Well, they're following links from all the different pages on the web. So if you're looking at it, you've got a little spider, and that spider is going through, and it's going through the different pages, and link after link after link after link, it's following all of these pages until finally it has this humongous index of pages. And the last count of these pages was 60 trillion pages that supposedly Google is searching at this point. So we know that they're getting a lot of data, that we have this huge index. So the next question is, all right, well, how do they sort through this? How do they even know what floats to the top? So I'm going to put a search term in there. How do I not get 60 trillion results? So the next part of this is, all right, how is Google making this happen? So there's these fancy algorithms they do that I do not understand at all. But I looked it up on Wikipedia, and they had their formulas there, and I was going to explain it, but we don't have enough time. But we know that they're using a lot of different algorithms, and we know that they're changing them often because Google is very dedicated to making sure that people aren't trying to cheat Google. And this has been happening all along, right? So I remember when I first started doing web design that people were saying, well, in the metadata, if you put in the keyword that's the most popular 20 times, it'll float to the top. Well, they've gotten rid of that. That doesn't work for you anymore. Google now, if you start studying the search engine optimization type things, you'll see that it's really all about your content. They want your content to be good. If you have good content and other factors, things won't go to the top. So there are some things that we know, some things we don't. We know that Google claims that there's about 200 factors that they use to do page ranking. Some of those factors we know, some of them are a mystery, and again, they're changing every day. So some of the things we're looking at are relevancy to your search terms, right? So obviously they're not going to give you just arbitrary search results. Whatever you're putting a search in is what you're going to find, right? Another is the content quality. So you may not know this, but Google actually has algorithms and different things that are looking at things like punctuation, things like grammar. So if it's a bad site, if a site that has a lot of grammatical errors or a lot of misspellings, it might not rank as high. It's trying to weed those things out. Another thing that it's looking for is freshness of content. So all things being equal, what's the most recent post on this or recent content on this? Another piece is location. So you may or may not have turned on your location settings in Google, but in general, they know where you're at, right? I mean, they know that you're in the United States. They probably know that you're in North Carolina, and they probably know that you're in Elon. So these are the things they're trying to give you results based upon where you're at because it's helpful to you, right? I mean, again, 60 trillion pages, you need to figure out a way to get the right stuff. The last thing here is the quality links from reputable sites, which is actually a pretty big deal. So let me give you an example of this. If I have a blog post, and I made a blog post on best practices in project management for higher education. Well, I mean, that's a search term people might put in if you're really interested in that type of stuff. If I just have my blog and no one is linked to me, even with everything else being true, most likely I'm not going to be high on the page ranks. But let's say that someone's linked to me. Well, if it's just anyone's linked to me, if someone, Billy Bob out there is linked to me and his blog is not really well known as well, it's helping a little bit, but not really. But if Elon links to that blog post, then I'm getting up there a little bit. And then let's say Educause links to that blog post, and then it's even more. And then let's say the Project Management Institute, which is the governing body of project management, they link to me even higher. And then let's say something crazy happens, and let's say Campus Technology or Wired Magazine or someone really huge links to me. Then it might be that if someone puts those search terms in there that relate to my article, I might be at the very, very top. So these things are important to know because it's important to know how Google is giving you the data that it's giving you. There might be some really good information, but there has to be a little bit of work in there as well from the site owner perspective and from the content perspective as well. So what I want to do is kind of go through, now that we know kind of how Google works in a very basic sense, how do we make sure that we are helping Google help you? So how are we making sure that when we're doing search terms that they're something that Google understands and that they're helping you find the information that you want? So I put together a few little tips here, just 6, because we don't have a lot of time. Most of you probably know these, but just in case, we're just going to go over them. The first tip I have is reacquaint yourself with Google. So even doing this presentation and doing screenshots, I was finding things that I haven't seen. Because, you know, I use Google every day, but I'm not looking for new features every day. But we know that Google is very agile in their development. They're putting new things out there all the time. So if you go through and you're looking at the different navigation pieces there, you may find something new. Explore it a little bit. Get a little time for that. I'll mention, like, if you go to more and then flights, there was actually an article recently that Google has the cheapest flights out there compared to any of the other major places that are trying to do that, Travelocity and all of those things. So it's good to know, right? On the right side, and you can't really see it on this screenshot, but on the right side there's a cogwheel. That's where a lot of your advanced settings are. So you have a safe search there if you want to make sure that you're not getting a lot of spam. It also can be a safe search for explicit content. So if you want to lock something down, you can do that there. You can do advanced search settings. So a lot of the things I'm going to talk to you about are actually under advanced search settings. So if you don't remember them, just go there. But explore it a little bit, and I think it's going to help you. And again, if you explore it today, explore it next month too, because there's going to be changes there. The second tip is a really important one, and that is using simple, descriptive, and web-friendly words. So what do I mean by that? If I was looking to see, how do I become a Google search ninja? This is probably not the best thing to put in Google. I mean, first of all, Google's going to ignore the punctuation, fine. You don't have to ask a question that way, but you can if you want to. But in general, if I'm thinking about simple, descriptive, and web-friendly words, what I'm thinking about is the people who are putting this type of content together, what would they probably put as their title or as keywords in their articles? I think Google Search Ninja is catchy, but I don't know that Tech Republic has an article that says Google Search Ninja. I don't know that other places have that as well. So what would be better things to put instead? You might want to think about Google Search Best Practices. I've seen, how many articles have I seen that's like that? Or Advanced Google Search, or Google Search Tips. Things like that are web-friendly words. They're succinct and they're simple. So when you're doing searches for anything that you're searching on now, just think about those types of words. Third tip, search parameters. So I've got a few in here. There's a lot more out there, but we're just going to go over a few that I use a lot. Quotes are very important, and I'm sure a lot of you do this, but if you just put in there Microsoft 365, Google in general is probably going to find Microsoft 365, but it's also going to find things that have Microsoft and 365, maybe not together. Claudia Sparks, the same way. CMS comparisons. We're doing a CMS search committee right now. And if I just put CMS comparisons without the quotes, it may or may not know to link those two things together. So quotes are really important if you know specifically what you're looking for. Now that can also be detrimental if you're not careful, because if you get too specific, then it's going to narrow your results. But in general, you want to get closer and closer to what you want in that search. Another search parameter that a lot of people use is except. So putting a dash before the word with no space. So that puts an exception in your search results. So let's say, for instance, and we'll go over this a little bit more in a second, but Microsoft 365. Maybe I'm looking for articles of Microsoft 365, but I'm tired of getting promotional things from Microsoft. What I can do is I can say, all right, Microsoft 365, and I'd probably have quotes there. And I would do -site:/Microsoft.com, which means find all the results that are Microsoft 365, but exclude any results that are coming from that site. Same thing with recipes, right? That's an easy example. Maybe I like turkey chili, maybe I want a recipe, but maybe I hate beans. So I can say turkey chili recipes minus beans, and it's going to show me all the recipes that do not have beans in turkey chili. So if you think about this from a text standpoint, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you can apply to that. Another tip, search operators. So this is something that I love and I use every single day. So when I'm searching for things in general, I love working in higher ed because we are very willing to share everything. Almost everything is public, right? So we have policies out there, we have documentations, we have how-tos, we have pilots that we've done of technology, and we want to share those things out. The beauty of higher education is that we all have a domain name that ends with .edu. So Google has a way for you to search these types of domains. So I can go out and do a search, like if I'm looking for CMS comparisons. I want to see if somebody else has done this because we're doing a lot of work with this. Maybe I'll do a CMS comparison, site:/edu. Well, all those results are just going to be from higher ed, so I can search through that. It's the same thing if I'm looking for documentation. You know, there's a lot of documentation out there. A lot of people have been using 365. What documentation do they have? Well, maybe I don't want it from industry. I want to see what higher ed has done and to relate to their people. So again, Microsoft 365, site:/edu, going to give you higher ed. So there's other domains just to be aware of. .gov is another one. You can do an actual search for the actual site as well. So elon.edu, or maybe I do want to search Microsoft. I can do a site:/microsoft.com, and it's only going to give me results from that domain. Another one that I didn't have on here, but something to know is .org is another one. There's a lot more of these, but these are some of the ones that I use often. Another site search operator that I use is file type. So if I'm looking for something, say for instance it's a PDF or a Word doc or a PowerPoint, so let's say I'm looking for a cool PowerPoint to do for Google Search Ninja, I can do a search for that and it'll just give me those types of file types. So I can do file type, and whatever that extension is, PPT, DOC, whatever, and it's just going to give me those file types coming back to me, which is really nice. Tip 5. I'm not sure if any of you know about this, but if you don't, it's really cool. So reverse search, image search. And so what I did, if you've ever been in my office, I have a picture of this beautiful pig. And I love this beautiful pig. But the cool thing is I took a picture of this on my camera, on my phone. And then I went to Google and I went to the images page. And then I clicked on the camera. And when you click on the camera, then you see this option. You can either paste the image URL or you can upload an image there. So I just uploaded the image from my phone to see what Google will give me. Now this is interesting because I actually saw this picture at a restaurant. And so instead of having to say, I love that picture, I really want that in my office, I've got to figure out what it is. Pig on a green couch. Pig on a green couch with a blue background. I mean, those things are hard to search for, but really the beauty is that Google knew what I was talking about, right? So I uploaded the picture and it found matching pictures for me. Immediately, I could tell that this was a National Geographic picture that I could actually order online, which was really nice. Not necessarily technology related, but maybe take this tip with you. Very, very fun. So the last tip that I have, not really a tip, but when I was talking to people about some of their tips, they're like, you've got to tell people about the barrel roll and all of these things. So just have some fun with Google. If you go back to your office, enter those terms in Google without the quotes, and just see what happens. So do a barrel roll, see what happens. Tilt, see what happens. There's a lot of these other things out there as well, so if you forget about these things, you can look these up, or you can just go online afterwards and look at this in this video. But it's just fun. I think that the main intention is to be able to be a Google Ninja, you really need to know a lot about Google. You need to be using it every single day, and you need to be using it in different ways. And I really think we need to all channel our Google Search Ninja, because otherwise we're not going to be as helpful as we otherwise could.